to be, in my perspective, a little noisier than the previous one. Again, because I am recording in the outdoors, and of course, it is very noisy as you can see now. But the content, I hope that you like it as much as I liked when working on preparing it. Today, we're talking about one one of the greatest, from my perspective, one of the greatest Verdi operas. However, not one of the most popular, for a good number of reasons. One of them is that it takes a great cast to perform, a great baritone, and an even much extraordinary soprano than the usual. We have talked about it a number of times that Traviata, many sopranos can get away with it. um, other other areas where by only being a heavier soprano, spinto, or close to dramatic, you can get away with Aida, for instance, or there are a number of other Verdian roles that, with a soprano with a well-developed technique, can get away with it. However, that is not the case for Lady Macbeth. Lady Macbeth is still of the earlier stages of Maestro Verdi, which reminds us that he is what I like to call the bel cantista in Verdi, and that holds particularly true for the voice of the soprano because this opera demands a very, very, very heavy, dark, very obscure, even a horrible voice in the sound soprano, which is not very easy to find. And we can recall that Shirley Verrett, the mezzo-soprano, went for this role, provided that many sopranos do not have the stamina and the right color to sing this song. So a mezzo with good high notes can get away with it much easier than a soprano can, because the range of the voice for Lady Macbeth is well over 2 octaves, reaching in the depths of the chest zone and reaching the highest or one of the highest notes that a soprano can reach, and that is exactly what we are going to talk about today. We are going to be comparing, for taking a look at four versions of the Una Macchia Qui Tutora, the very famous sleepwalking scene or sleepwalking aria at the very end of this opera, which many people do not pay really that attention to. And I was also thinking that it's worth investing a dissection program for it because it could clearly take us over 30 minutes to analyze the many nuances that this aria has. It's not only about the final note, it's not only about whether she's already not only night walking, but uh, if you recall the plot of the opera, Lady Macbeth has been progressively losing her mind. She's like reality has escaped from hers, and that must be depicted in the final aria, the sleepwalking scene. Um, Now, why? Let's go to the point of why I was sharing with you that this is a very close to impossible piece to sing. Many people just focus on the fact that a high note is required, a D flat is required for the voice of the soprano, of course, higher than a high C. And you could also say, well, it's just a semitone, so half a tone. Half a tone above the high C. If you have a high C, how hard could it be to reach a D flat or a half a semitone above the high C? But we need to keep in mind two very important things. One, that this is required for a heavy soprano voice, and also related to that, keep in mind that the louder, the higher volume, the more powerful the voice is, the more unlikely it is that the voice is going to reach high notes. There, uh, there is a sort of relationship between the size or the volume of the voice and the capacity to reach high notes. So, and this is an inverse relationship. The higher the volume, the less likely it is to reach notes around high C and above. And for higher notes, higher or reaching around the high C and above, the more likely it is that the voice is going to be smaller in the volume or in terms of sound. That's the inverse relationship that is usual in the description of the voices. So, if you have a huge voice in order to be able to sing Lady Macbeth, it is very unlikely that you have a high note above the high C, which is exactly what is required in this ending. But it is not only that, and I was saying that people just get stuck in, it is a high note, so, and it is a D flat, or it is a whatever it is. It is not only that that note is required. The true problem is that Maestro Verdi said that he wants it in what he called un fil di voce. I am showing it on the screen now. Un fil di voce, of course, not everybody speaks Italian. Un fil di voce means something that could be described in sort of a pianissimo. Un fil di voce means with a barely flow of the voice. But that's exactly the difficulty of it, because many sopranos can reach that high note with full voice, but reaching that with scarcely un fil di voce is what makes it close to impossible, because they are also on the opposite sides of the vocal emission. We have explained a number of times that the higher the note, the more naturally the higher volume comes associated with it. It is much easier to sing a softer, a less volume note when it goes to the lower chest register. But when it goes high, it naturally it's more brilliant. It reaches further. So it has a high, much bigger, brighter sound. So requesting a note that is naturally in a much bigger, brighter sound to be sung con un fil di voce is the formula for disaster. So no wonder why many sopranos have skipped this note, skipped, sang it maybe an A, I think they would be safer singing an A or something around an A. And if they have not transposed it to sing it to singing it lower, what they basically do is that they don't sing with un fil di voce. They don't sing piano or pianissimo. They sing forte or fortissimo. At the end, people like high notes, right? So that's what more likely are sopranos to do. And for that, I'm going to be sharing with you, for example, of sopranos who have tried this aria. So keep in mind that it's requested with a fil di voce, something that doesn't require you to go full power, all pasta, everything there. No full pasta, no full power, no everything there. Just un fil di voce. Just barely your voice trespassing and being heard. So for that, we are going to have four examples, and we are going to start. Of course, this is going to be a very polemic video, and I also know that if you want to read or if you like to read the messages, the comments of people, of course, there are always the eternal platitudes. Yeah, the greatest soprano of the recent days, the greatest soprano of all times, the most brilliant soprano of the blah 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 blah. That really adds nothing to the conversation, and very people make a true interesting comment around the high note that is required to be sung in un fil di voce. That is the truly demanding and complicated part of it. So let's start checking on those so that this video doesn't long that last. And first, we are going to start with Lady Anna Netrevka. Of course, everybody knows her, and everybody knows that she, after the year 20, 2010, 2011, she started trying heavy roles, one of them being Macbeth. Of course, I can be counted among those who think she should have never tried those. So take a look at how she attacks this ascending higher note with un fil di voce and see if we can be satisfied with it. Well, that was for Anna Netrebko. Why don't we go now for Birgit Nilsson? Of course, Birgit Nilsson, which is a very well-known Wagnerian soprano, kind of the voice that could endure Macbeth very easily. But what surprises most people is that the night walking scene is full of not only the high note at the end, but it's full of many nuances and playing with the crescendos and diminuendos and this pianissimi that she sings. Personally, I don't like the sound of her final note. Well, that was Birgit Nilsson. Now that we go for Leonie Reisanex, which is here announced as a powerful D flat six in Lady Macbeth's walking scene. I wish that some reference could be made to that it is requested in a un fil de voce sound. And because I know everybody is expecting to listen to Maria Callas' version of Una Magia Qui Tutora, let's also keep in mind that Una Magia Qui Tutora, or Macbeth's role, was a role that she certainly sang, not that very often. She did, but not that very often. And maybe if she had the voice, maybe she could have tried even further to improve this role. Not bad, still not her best, but let's take a look at her high note in Un fil di voce. This time it really sounds like Un fil di voce with a much better sound. I think she nailed it in the this time. At least not her best performance, not her best role, but I like it a lot more than the four other versions that I shared today. So no wonder why many sopranos are skipping this part. Not so easy to do, not really at all.